Danielle Avery, Chief Editor of Bellevue Literary Review. If you don't know BLR, here's our latest two issues, 48 and 49. We're so excited to have you. BLR is a journal that publishes fiction, poetry, and nonfiction about health, illness, and healing. We've been at it a long time. In fact, this coming year, 2026, is our 25th anniversary. I'm very pleased to introduce Doris W. Cheng, one of our fiction editors who really spearheaded this event. So Doris, tell us a bit about tonight's event.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to try this new format. It's first of all, it's really great to see everyone here and to see such a great turnout. All of us at BLR really believe in the importance of what writers do and what your work gives to the world in terms of insight and empathy and new ways of seeing. And at a time when the world seems like it's placing less value on art, it's more important than ever to celebrate creative work. So that's why we're excited to have all of you here for this reading where we can be in community with more of the authors that we publish.
That's fabulous. We're very excited. So this is our 49th issue. 50's coming up soon. So the theme of Animalia really intrigues many of us. And because health is really not, as we know, not just a human concept. The experience of inhabiting a body, it's universal for all creatures who live and breathe. And we humans, four legs and two-legged animals, we all share the environment, sometimes uneasily, often unequally. And we are elbowing all the time into each other's homesteads, psyches, microbiomes, and we affect each other's health. I mean, we, not all of us, but many of us eat animals, and occasionally they eat us. And so for this special issue of Animalia, we put out a call for poems, stories, and essays about the ways in which animals figure into our lives and how animals' experiences of health can shine a light on our own. So we're so excited to share this issue that explores health and healing that both transcends and interconnects all species and what animals can teach us about being human. So our first reader this evening is Don Zancanella, and we'll read from the short story, The Beautiful Ones. Don is a fiction writer who lives in Boise, Idaho, and Albuquerque, New Mexico at the same time, it seems. Mm-hmm. And he writes, my current favorite animal is the badger, because they are brave, clever, industrious, and they live their lives low to the ground. Don.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick thank you to everybody who is putting on this event, and also to the all the staff of the review, because it's just a beautiful issue. I was really proud to be part of it. So I'm going to read just the first couple pages of my story, The Beautiful Ones. I grew up in a working-class suburb of Denver with a mother who was a functioning alcoholic and a father who sold office supplies and was frequently on the road. I dropped out of school at 16 and started supporting myself. Most of the time I worked as a day laborer at construction sites. I dug holes and carried lumber. I pushed wheelbarrows. I loaded and unloaded trucks. At age 24, in May of 1976, I was hired to work in the health department of a small town in the mountains. My job would be to help exterminate the mosquitoes that appeared every summer and caused tourists to complain. I'd never heard of such a trade and wondered what I'd be expected to do. My boss was a civil servant named Albert Rudd, and my only coworker, a college girl named Audrey. Some years later, I too would attend college, but at the time it seemed unlikely. I had little money, no ambition, and would scarcely have known how to apply. The work turned out to be both more interesting and more routine than I anticipated. Every morning, Audrey and I drove a pickup truck to the irrigated hayfields on the ranches west of town. Once we were well into them, we pulled over and used a tin cup fastened to a length of broomstick to collect a sample of water from one of the many stagnant pools. Then we counted the mosquito larvae swimming in the cup. Using those numbers, Rudd could estimate the severity of the coming outbreak, how many mosquitoes this season would produce, and how soon they would migrate toward town. The larvae were peculiar creatures, tiny Y-shaped worms with what appeared to be an eye on one end. The best part of the job was the setting. The hayfields were an intense emerald green, the mountains rose up grandly on all sides, and the bird song from red-winged blackbirds, yellow-headed blackbirds, longspurs, and even the occasional bobolink was always a delight. I especially liked hearing meadowlarks, their flute-like warble distinguishing them from the other birds. Some days we finished our mosquito work early. Then we were assigned additional tasks. Since it was a small town, the concept of health department was loosely defined. We tested the chlorine levels of motel swimming pools. We inspected restaurants for cleanliness, but rarely issued citations. And if 3 or 4 sheep happened to wander down Main Street, we chased them back into the foothills so they could rejoin their flock. Thanks.
Thank you, Don. That was really, really lovely. And you have to read the whole story, get your issue of BLR. Next up is Suzanne Underwood Rhodes reading the poem Signs. Suzanne is the Arkansas Poet Laureate, an author and a teacher, and she recalls getting into a counting match with a crow, and the two of them caw counted all the way to 9, each of them upping the next one by another caw. Congratulations, Suzanne.
So I wanted to echo what Don said about the pleasure and the privilege of being here among all these writers and with you and the editors, this wonderful journal. I have several issues of it from the past, so congratulations on your anniversary. I had my cat in here a minute ago, but he chose to leave. So this is called Signs. Oh, and before I read, I have students here from my Muse workshop that is meeting here in just a few minutes. So if we drop out, it's not for lack of interest in the other works. So this is called Signs. Holding the cat up to the window to watch the autumn rain falling. Rain he will never know, but this way, through a glass, like words we humans know as signs pointing somewhere. How easy to read the morning imprinting its gray script on the world as true. My heart caught sometimes like a bird in a net of uncertainty. For I know the leaves lashed about in the rain aren't wings at all, but merely leaves. As I tell the cat, wriggling in my arms for birds, he'll never know, unlike me with human yearning.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was just beautiful. We're so appreciative of that, and welcome to all your students. Thanks for joining us. Okay, Tammy Greenwood, I hope you're available to come up next, who's going to read the poem Call and Response. Tammy Greenwood is a poet and printmaker currently earning her MFA at San Diego State University. And she wrote, "The wildest thing that has ever happened to me with an animal would be what happened in my poem." And so I'll let you tell her about that in verse. Tammy?
Hi, thank you. I'll just go right into my poem. Call and Response. When the owl fledglings fall from their nest, I consider not inserting myself into their fate. Watch the siblings hobble from pepper tree shade to the safety of buckwheat. The mother arrives at dusk with short, shrill chirps. They answer with a bellowing screech as if they'll never be found. She drops night kills in the brush. Their call and response puncture darkness like luminescent blooms against the black sky. It's been months since our last exchange. Your face nearly unrecognizable on a video call. Another urban Mayday. You considering rehab. Me knowing there's only moments to say the right thing before you go silent again. Wishing a simple lullaby could still calm you in the night. The next morning, a group of ravens gather in the shade and earn their name, an unkindness, a clawed foot remaining between them. A lone owlet drags itself from dried yarrow, one wing flapping, the other dangling by its side. It took only minutes to toss the towel over its body, place it in the dog crate in the air-conditioned car. I'm not sure if an owl is soothed by "You Are My Sunshine," but I sing it all the way to the rescue, knowing this is all that I can save.
Thank you, Tammy. That was just beautiful. Doris?
Okay. Thanks for that. So we're going to move on to a little fiction now. Next up is Tom Anderson, who is a fiction writer and singer-songwriter from Boston. He is granddad to a golden doodle named Shelby, who was picked from a litter by his son-in-law and is now the perfect pet for 3 exuberant grandboys. He'll be reading from his short story, Arowana Infinity.
Great, thank you. And it is an honor to be in this publication, and thank you for listening. Shelby is not in this story. Anyway, it's called Arowana Infinity. There was a woman we were all in love with during our first jobs as software developers at a bioinformatics startup in Boston. Elise was brilliant, really, and attractive, rich, quick, and kind. We all felt the kindness and brilliance was ours alone, but it wasn't. She'd gone to Dartmouth and studied computer science and molecular biology. She played concert-level violin. When she announced her upcoming wedding one day, all of us were shocked and disappointed, without any logical reason for being so. Her husband-to-be, Lucas, a lug of a lacrosse player from Middlebury, with a thick torso and rich name. We called him Lug. He thought himself a painter. She'd married into her class. She was still good to all of us, and we worked hard. And maybe one Friday a month, we drank at Lucky's, and then went to Elise's top floor loft in Fort Point in an artist co-op building. Her husband's paintings from college had gotten him in, and his parents bought the loft. It was one big floor and studio with tall windows and a built-in, closed-in mezzanine, with a low bed and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and a tiny separate study for Elise that was filled with computer monitors, her violin, and a music stand. In the studio, there was a very large aquarium, maybe 30 feet long and 3 feet high. Elise had a fish, an arowana, that would swim from one end of the aquarium to the other, do a vertical shimmy, and then race and sit behind a plastic castle, its fleshy tail protruding. The fish was maybe 2.5 feet long. It had eyes that looked up and a bony head with a large upturned mouth, and it was a slick, whitish silver color that sparkled and dimmed in the green aquarium lights. What happened was this. The startup we worked for had been acquired, and all projects were shipped off to Japan to a large conglomerate with a new science initiative. The four of us, Elise, Bobby, Jack, and me, moved on to other companies and universities. We were good. We had no trouble finding jobs, even in the downturn. We kept meeting sporadically for maybe 9 months after the acquisition, and then drifted apart. 10 years later, though, we found ourselves in Elise's loft again, with the same fish, same aquarium, same glass player and painter, even thicker and more surly. Probably richer, his family reigning wealth. His paintings had gotten larger. The fish kept staring at us, except when she turned at either end of the aquarium and swirled up or down in a lemon-static ellipse, an infinity spiral, a show-off. I didn't think fish lived that long, I said. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Tom. It looks like Ashley's mic is fixed. So, Ashley, are you there?
Ashley, as we said, lives and writes in Oklahoma, and her favorite animal is the crow. Take it away, Ashley.
Thank you. And we can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Migrations. I can't name them, but they behave like tourists. They descend for a season, wings open and close. Then they leave as, I imagine, nervous energy, carrying them to the next destination where there is a controlled burn planned along the county road. There will be flags for a warning. I have made myself a note not to go that way. Hopefully, I will remember. Right now, I am trying to recall the full name of a classmate who died when we were 8. His house burned down in winter. I remember him on the playground. Sweat made a track down his dusty face as he kicked other boys. He has a grave in my hometown, and I never think of him. It seems unfair. I have not held on better. Thinking about this, I look down at my empty hands as though surprised. For that 8-year-old boy, I kept nothing. And I am now middle-aged with the scars typical in a C-section where they open you up like earth for babies. The doctor uses a cauterizing tool, lighthearted. Ignore the smell of blood vessels on fire for the sake of new life. Tomorrow's burn smoke will abscond from the prairie quickly down the interstate. It will take birds south. The names, I don't know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley. That was great.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Jen Karetnick. who is the author of 22 books, 13 of which are poetry collections. She once housed a rescue fox named Olympia, who was descended from foxes used in a Russian silver fox domestication experiment, before placing her with a foster who didn't also have dachshunds. She will be reading her poem After Oral Surgery, I Am.
Thank you so much. It is really a pleasure to be here. And I just want to also give a shout out to the place where I wrote this was at a residency at Pine Meadow Ranch Arts and Agriculture Center. And I had a big stuffed deer head staring over me for a couple of weeks. And that's what inspired this poem. After oral surgery, I am mule-jawed, gums whiskered with stitches spread out like deer in a field. Numb, I find that my words have been edited to black manifestations marking where they once stood, sentences tailed off, capped like quadrupeds. For hours, my thoughts are all deer, no wolves. This doe nibbling daffodils wears a stanza. That deer and her twin fawns amble uphill with half of my grocery list. Heads of solitary bucks graze under the weight of unsent emails, mounted as antlers. I am anesthetized by my animal silence. On the temporary surface of my tongue, I don't taste sound the same way. The vowels in my mouth's amphitheater paneled, my consonants cesspitous, every syllable smacking walls between the bellows of my throat and the receiving ears. They chew like dissolving fur, these sentiments I try to say, all Dybbuk and mischief, spit and drool on a screen that I stare at, willing them to develop before I wipe the film away. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you. Next, we have Subhaga Crystal Bacon, who is the author of 5 full-length poetry collections and a chapbook. If she could be reincarnated as an animal, it would be as a horse named Blue, who had one blue eye and one brown eye, because he was king of the farm and let her ride him bareback. She will be reading her poem, Elegy with a Horse in a Field.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? It's funny, on my screen, I still see Doris, so I guess I have my view hidden, but that's okay. I'm really happy to be here tonight. This is, I think, my second publication in Bellevue Literary Review. It's just a gorgeous issue. Apologize in advance for the head cold that's got me down today. I'm dedicating this reading tonight to my very dear friend, Jennifer Martelli, who was my poetry guiding star, my oldest and nearly dearest friend, who died of pancreatic cancer a month ago on September 25th. And she's referenced in the poem. Elegy with a Horse in a Field, with a line from Jan Beatty. What can I tell you of this cool morning, mid-August, the sky clear, sun on the bare leaf, the house quiet. In his usual corner of the fence, mask on his long face to protect from smoke and dust. What does he see through the gauze? Once he recognized my car, the same boxy blue as his owner's, and did a greeting dance, head bobbing, until I turned off the other way. He stares down the road, upriver into the green. On the massage table, Allison unlocks what's held in my muscles, grief and worry. A young friend died from something I don't understand, trouble with her thyroid, her gut. Another friend diagnosed with a life-shortening condition. The table's heated, body temperature, and I melt into it. My own body surrendering to gravity's embrace. We're going somewhere unknown. The poet I read this morning said, sometimes you just have to say, okay, even if you don't understand. I'm still here, A new day still brings gifts that can be both burden and balm. Brown horse, clear sky, a space to unwind the knots of loss. It's okay, I want to say. It's okay if you don't understand. It's actually a mare I discovered from my neighbor, so she, not he. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful, Subhaga. Next, we have Michele Evans, who is a fifth-generation Washingtonian from Washington, D.C., and a writer and high school English teacher. Her last pet was a brindle-pied French bulldog named Olivia, who reminded her of the kids' book character Olivia the pig and Olivia Pope from the TV show Scandal, if you can imagine the combination there. She will be reading her poem, Southern, Black, and Widowed.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's holding space tonight. I'm really grateful and honored to be in this collection. Southern, Black, and Widowed. I hate spiders, camouflaged by their all black exteriors. From all angles, they spin in stealth, invisible webs. And despite nothing I have done, you hate me too, because I, dressed in all black, might become angry and attack. My silence twisted into traps you use against me. As I remain in my silk, cocooned from you, who would destroy this thing that I am still. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. That was beautiful. And I loved reading it in the slush pile. I loved reading it in the journal, and I loved hearing it. Thank you so much. Next up is Emilie Pascale Beck, who is a writer from Los Angeles. Her favorite animal is elephants for their matriarchal communities, their care for one another, and the deep bonds they form. I love their huge ears that they can hear a lot and also listen through vibrations in their feet. They live large and wonderful lives. Emilie will read an excerpt from her essay, Centuries. Emilie?
Thanks. I want to echo what everybody else has been saying. I'm so honored to be a part of this issue, a part of this publication. Thank you. When I wake, my right leg sheathed, I pull on wide-leg sweats that fit over the bandages wrapped from toe to thigh. And then I carry Bowie downstairs. He is long and low and old, nearly blind, one misstep away from a broken back. My own back catches when I pick him up. I've been told that I shouldn't lift anything heavy, that it compresses my already compressed vertebrae, but I do it anyway. When Bowie sleeps past 6 a.m., which isn't often, I want to smother him with kisses and tell him what a good boy he is, though he isn't that kind of dog. He is uninterested in my love. He wants only to inspect whether the cat has thrown up downstairs. He demands his routine, the walk, the meal, the bone. Yet he insists on being in the same room with me as if I'm his support animal. My husband feeds him too, but Bowie's all about the lady, as Jack refers to me when he speaks in the dog's voice. Lady, lady, Jack says as Bowie settles next to me. He uses a timbre that lives in the back of the throat, as if the dog's adenoids are enlarged. There are many days when I wouldn't leave my house if the dog didn't need his walk. We go a couple 100 feet up the block and back. That's all he's willing and all I'm able. It's not yet spring. Crows fly overhead, cawing and stuttering. Here in Los Angeles, seasons announce themselves in subtle ways. The orioles and bulbuls have not arrived from wherever they winter, but when they do, Bowie won't take notice. He is neither a birder nor a squirrel chaser. When the cat came to live with us, he barely sniffed her. I, on the other hand, can't get enough of the bulbuls. Their songs sound like musical waterfalls, high-pitched calls of love, which often come as a reminder that there is reason for joy. It was only about 10 years ago that I noticed the bulbuls at all. They're non-native, so maybe they showed up one day having discovered a yard with plentiful seeds, but it's also possible that I simply hadn't been aware. Life used to be busier. I had a full-time job, raised children. Then things changed. My health, my body. I made adjustments. I slowed down. It was then that I noticed the birds, all of them, robins and finches, hummingbirds, sparrows, wild parrots. The bulbuls, with their crested heads and joyous singing, lifted my spirits, even on my darkest days. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilie. That's beautiful. And if you want to read the entire essay, get your copy of Animalia. All right, next up is Irene Sherlock, who is a dual licensed marriage and family therapist and alcohol and drug counselor who lives and practices in Southbury, Connecticut. She writes, I'm without an animal these days, although I do enjoy the Canadian geese that precision land in the pond outside my condo, honking their arrival. And she will read her poem, Birdhouse. Irene?
Thank you. Very thrilled to be part of this publication. It's beautiful and very, very happy. Thank you for including me. A lot of birds today, and this is called Birdhouse. After the family of chickadees fledge, I vow to clean out the sticks and straw, flower frost, stray pebbles for next year's clutch. But months go by, it's spring again, a bird disappears into the small hole. Years ago, my magician mother measured yards of pink fabric, cutting along the pattern's lines, fashioning pieces together to become the dress I wore to junior prom. I stood on our step stool, looking down, thinking it would always be like this, Mom kneeling on strong legs, pinning, straightening my garment's hem. After my father left and my brother died, Mother moved to a birdhouse, one room where nothing was cleared, dishes piled in the sink, boxes of receipts, unopened mail, her walker beside the broken TV, a landfill of photos meant for albums beside her bed, the sagging mattress with sheets she wouldn't let her visiting daughter change. Today in my yard, a mother swallow carries a morsel of worm and disappears into her small home. I cannot see them inside, but hear as she arrives their delight. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. That was just stunning. Thank you so much. Next up is Kat Way, who is a writer in Brooklyn, New York, and she has two cats right now, Mouse, who is a gray Russian blue, and Toast, who is white and orange, toasted on top. And Kat will read her poem, Crab Eating. Kat?
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be part of this reading and this amazing issue. I wrote this poem on my first trip to Seattle, where I went alone to this place called Taylor Shellfish, and the poem is called Crab Eating. Crab eating is a trance if you know how to do it. Fingers to mouth, fingers to tender carapace. Crab eating is a tending and teasing out, a search for entry, the familiar contours. What am I when I am without self-consciousness? I am rock, scrambling, bone falling, the lips finding their way. Slick and tender, slick and wet, the maze of the chambered body hides and twists like a big cat encircling the bay of rippling flesh. Afterward, there are oysters, fennel, and the crop of fresh water rushed with a hint of brine. When I'm crab eating, I am not trying to be anyone. Hand to mouth, hand to claw, lost in the animal before me.
Wow. Thank you, Kat. That was so stunning and so evocative. Thank you so much.
Taylor Shellfish. Thank you.
Love it. Next up is Melissa Joplin Higley, who works as a writer, editor, and the poet laureate of Mamaroneck, New York. Her family has 4 black and white tuxedo cats named Chase, Daisy, Joey, and Beta, who like to trade places with each other when we're not looking. And Melissa will read her poem, Life Cycle. Melissa?
Thank you. I, like everyone else, am thrilled to be part of this issue and part of this reading in such good company. Thank you. This is called Life Cycle. There is a life where the fish is freed from the aquarium, the monkey from the cage, the rhino from the reserve, where the outside is as safe as the inside. There is a life where I float above a shoreline like a seagull ready to drop a mussel onto a blackened rock, a breaking, then a feeding. A life where beer cans tossed by late-night teens into the marsh's seagrasses rise up and march through the air, Fantasia style, along the wooden boardwalk to drop one by one in orderly fashion into the recycling bin. There is a life where the splintering wood rail pushes out the oxidizing nail, its wound softened to pulp, where the snowy egrets who leave the northern pond to fly south all make it to their winter trailers, where the trailers do not get sucked into the tornado. The tornado is not spawned by the hurricane. A life where the wind stays calm over the sea, and we do not kill ourselves trying to stay alive. Thanks.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Doris?
Thank you, Melissa. That was so powerful. Next up, we have Deborah Derrickson Kossmann, who is a clinical psychologist and author of the book Lost, Found, Kept, a Memoir. She was once responsible for the world's oldest gorilla's final birthday party. It was the world's oldest gorilla at that time, in case you were wondering. Decorating his enclosure and birthday cake. This is a story which really, hopefully, will become a piece of writing one day. I think we all want to know what happened there. She will be reading from her nonfiction piece, Complications of Captivity.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to read from an essay. This essay takes place also from my time at the Philadelphia Zoo. During the summer on peak event days, I often worked late at the zoo. In the golden sunset, I walked the path along Bird Valley on my way toward the administration building. Ducks with a reputation for squawking meanness resided in rock ring pools fed by a small waterfall. Even the zookeepers knew to steer clear of the territorial and temperamental birds. One hot July evening after closing time, I suddenly noticed a child's head popping up from under the water. A boy, maybe no more than 9, was swimming with the ducks, his clothing piled on the rocks next to the exhibit. "Get out," I barked, and then, more softly, "They can hurt you. That water could make you sick." He scrambled out of the pool wearing only his underwear. "The birds can't protect themselves by flying away because their wings are clipped," I explained as he dressed, "so they'll attack you if they get scared." I waved over the guard to call his parents before escorting him out. At the zoo store, Dottie, the manager, used to say, "I can sell anything by attaching it to a stick." She'd fasten plastic lizards, tiny stuffed tigers, or rubber snakes that didn't sell to thin wooden dowels. School children waved them everywhere, terrorizing their classmates. Teachers worried someone would get an eye poked out. I once witnessed a little boy use one of these sticks to push wrapped hard candy through the fencing to the gibbons, despite my telling him not to. The newspapers described what happened to the greater flamingos like this. On Wednesday, April 25th, 1977, around 7:30 p.m., an hour and a half after closing time, Zoo Guard Richard Mitchell, 53, saw 3 boys running inside the Flamingos Island Sanctuary. Excuse me. The boys had climbed a 9-foot fence in the back of the zoo, crawled over barbed wire, and waded through a shallow moat to get to the birds. Mitchell gave chase and with another guard caught them near the exhibit and called the West Philadelphia police. The zoo veterinarian, Dr. Hannah Hinch, 34, arrived within the hour. 5 birds were found dead. 3 more sustained broken legs, broken wings, and internal injuries and had to be euthanized. A surviving bird was treated for severe trauma that included eye injuries, shock, and loss of blood. Dr. Hinch took one of the birds back to her home to nurse overnight. 2 10-year-old boys and a 13-year-old boy were charged with cruelty to animals, criminal mischief, trespassing, possession of an instrument of a crime, and conspiracy. They were released to the custody of their parents pending a hearing in juvenile court. They used sticks, stones, and a steel feeding pan to attack the animals. It was the worst case of vandalism in the institution's history. Thank you.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I was just
an
going to jump in
incredible
and say
story.
it's so incredible, and you must read the rest of that. It's such a powerful piece, and I really enjoyed working on it with you. Thank you. Sorry, Doris.
No, I had forgotten that that incident, but that's incredible. Next we have Megeen R. Mulholland, and she is a poet and dog person, and she loves to quote Edith Wharton. Her sentiment, "My little dog, a heartbeat at my feet." She'll be reading her poem Fascination.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be included. And I wanted to thank Maya Perry for the beautiful back cover. My poem is about a butterfly, so I love it. Fascination. She is fascinated with the butterflies pinned through the wing on velvet exhibit at the State Museum. Illuminated from beneath, the fragile scales seem to cling to one another, each translucent hue woven directly into the pulse of empty veins splayed across either wing, laden black all around the edge. She holds her face so close to the glass that the light displays her too, at once transfixed and startled that they could capture and expose creatures so fair in such a cruel and exquisite manner. The girl studies the joints, examining how they fit together, each one dependent on the next, contemplating how the body could ever lift its own weight upward with only these frail wings. She holds her face so close that the glass clouds over with her breath, and as she wipes it clean with her loose shirt sleeves, I imagine their wings set in motion, the hollow rings of the pins inhibiting their initial flutter, but not enough to keep them from rising in unsteady ascent.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. Our next reader is Nancy Mayer, who lives in a small house on a field in northern Wisconsin with 1 human, 1 cat named Rosie, and an itinerant, ever-varying population of flies, ants, wasps, and beetles. She will be reading her poem, The Stubbornness of Bodies.
Okay, I don't know if you can see me or hear me. I had to change machines. Am I audible? Okay. So I had to run across that field to another house in order to do this. So the stubbornness of bodies. The flies that take over our house each fall die slowly. On their backs, legs churning, they struggle to right themselves, stumble, upend themselves again. In the morning, I sweep up their corpses, sweep the legs they've left behind. A fly on the counter strolls into a patch of sun. I watch it wash its face like a kitten, its back shining blue in the sun. I watch its sheer gray wings unfurl. I watch it fly. This is the only requiem we are guaranteed. Remember, insists the body, no matter how small the remnant, something is being lost. We grew still when my mother's breath became a ratchety gasp. It wasn't, the nurse explained, a symptom of panic or pain, just lungs trying to do what they'd always done when the time for their work was over. There was so little left, no laughter, no words, no long life recalled or future to conjure, no seasons, just human hands and human voices, the changing light.
Wow. Thank you for that, Nancy. Our next reader is Olivia Ciacci, who is a writer from Pennsylvania living in Germany. Dogs are her favorite animal, though birds come a close second. She'll be reading her poem, CVS 77th and Broadway.
You did yourself again.
Hi, can everybody hear me? I can get a thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm calling in from Berlin. It's really nice to see some familiar faces as well as hear everybody's work. So this is a poem from when I lived in New York City. All right, CVS 77th and Broadway. He was trucking in, barrel-chested, short legs, wheezing. I was heading out, having paid at the self-serve. Those large black eyes, wet with friendliness, if not recognition. We kept the automatic doors open. He wanted to talk, but his human had shit to do. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. I think I know that CBS. I think I have a poem from the Duane Reade on 86th and Broadway, as we all do. Wonderful poem. Next up is Kate Broad, who is a novelist who lives in the Bronx, who would rather be who wants to be reincarnated as a pampered house cat because they clearly have the best lives. And Kate will read from her essay, Exene. Kate?
All right, did I successfully unmute? All right, thank you all. This is such a wonderful event. I'm really honored to be part of this group with all of you and to be able to do such a special evening or whatever time of day it is, you know, with people across the country and in Berlin. This is my first ever piece of creative nonfiction that I wrote and that I got published. So it's been a really big honor to have it in the Bellevue Review. This piece, Exene, is about, just a little background, rehoming my brother's cat, whose name is Exene, after my brother's death by suicide. My parents brought Exene to their house, but then they couldn't keep her. So in the excerpt that I'm going to read, we're sort of during a quiet moment, and my dad and I are trying to get Exene into the carrier to take her to a new home. That morning, my father and I crept into the basement. We took the stairs slowly so they wouldn't creak. We had our other cat's treats from when we needed to coax him to accept an injection, because you can do that kind of thing with your pet, step in and ease their pain. I shuffled across the cool tile in my socks, making kissing noises, calling for Exene. She came out slowly. How lost she was, how afraid. Or maybe I was just describing that to her, making her needy the way I was needy. She couldn't have known what was happening or why she was there. None of us knew what was happening or why we were there. I crouched down and extended the treat in my palm, calling for her, Exene. I wanted her to trust me. I wanted her to give me what no human could. She sniffed her way forward, inching out from among the basement's trove of life jackets, ski boots, stacks of plastic bins. She crouched down. My father tiptoed behind her. Exene, I whispered to cover his footsteps. She came to me, to my outstretched hand. Just as she extended her nose to the treat, my father threw a blanket over her from behind and pushed her to the floor. She flattened, stunned, then reared against him, fur and claw and instinct to survive. But he didn't let go. And the howl she made, the look in her eyes as the blanket pinned her down. What can be more certain than the knowledge deep in the belly of your soft animal gut that you have been betrayed? My father wrestled her into the carrier. He drove her to her next home, a friend of a friend who would love her. I made myself believe it. I'm sorry, I kept saying to the cat, to myself, to the brother who was gone and always would be. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was sobbing by then. I'd been crying ever since the Sunday that my mother called and then she called again. But now I cried for Exene and what I'd done. It was the cat and her howl and the look in her eyes. It was our betrayal. It was how wrong we'd all been. You can take care of someone and still hurt them. You can take care of yourself, which can be its own form of pain. You can say, I'm trying to help you, but that help can look like being smothered in a basement. It can look like no one is helping you at all. Thank you.
Wow, Kate, that was just so powerful. And it just really, I think, illustrates the theme of Animalia. And I did want to give a shout out to the cover. Someone mentioned that My Ashley is the front cover. And here's the back cover that was mentioned with the moth. And I spotted Kate's work in the gallery at L'Espace in Chelsea and knew that was going to be the cover. And the artist was kind enough to join us. Thank you so much for that really stunning reading. You must read the entire essay, get the issue. Next up is Caroline Barnes, who is a poet and editor from Maryland, who writes, "If I could be reincarnated as an animal and our oceans could be safe again for sea life, I would like to be a blue whale because in my opinion, it is the most magnificent animal on our planet." And Caroline will read her poem, Coaster. Caroline?
Hi. I'm also extremely grateful to be here, not just for the chance to read my own work, but to hear in the real voices of everyone their creative work is just extraordinary. I wrote my poem Coaster after many years of attending the Farm Animal Rights Conference to make myself be a better vegetarian since I was failing constantly. But I went by myself every time, and it was so sad. And this poem helped me. And I've written other poems too about that experience. So I'd like to share it. Coaster. Between sessions, the vendor's room at the Animal Rights Conference is crowded and noisy. At one table, a young woman is selling photographs of herself soothing a pig on its way to slaughter. Her face is beautiful and kind. She is telling a man her mother took the picture, urged her to share it. The man is saying what a good person she is, what a special soul she has, as he holds up the line. She is selling the photograph framed, also ashtrays, keychains, t-shirts, coasters, all with the same image of the pig, but each cropped differently. I think about buying the ashtray for my daughter, who smokes, but the image on it is sad, and so is my daughter. I pick up the coaster, notice the face of the pig poking its head out a breathing hole on the side of a transport truck, fits perfectly in the circle. I imagine the coaster under a glass of water. I imagine looking into the glass and seeing the face at the bottom, looking up at me, wet, smeary, distorted, its eyes even bigger, its fear more visible. I think how easy it would be to drown here at this table, surrounded by people who are hoping to save a life, even if it is their own.
Wow. Wow. That was so powerful. Really love that poem. Thank you so much for sharing that. Next up is Fez Avery, a poet and performer from Michigan, who writes, "I'm currently working as a ranch hand, fulfilling my lifelong dream of working with horses. I'd like to be reincarnated as a horse." And Fez will read from the poem, "I am going to find the finest rotisserie chicken." Fez?
Hi there. Thank you very much for having me. I'm getting over a cold right now, so I hope my voice doesn't give out too much. I am going to find the finest rotisserie chicken. I am going, yes, to pick the plumpest and brawniest bird under the lamp, crisp in waiting. The bird who outperformed the other poor bastards at the feeder, at the bitter end, squalled loudest against the chop, who in death refused to shed as its legs were bound by butcher's twine. I am going to purchase it and slip it softly into the paper bag and crease the top to a tight seal. I am going to pack it so well that no aroma, no ounce of tender warmth will escape the long drive home. I'm going to carry the prize over the threshold in my nurturing, patient arms, with my delicate piano hands, polished with nothing more than a pat of cuticle oil. I will open its wrappings, pull apart the tendrils of breast, and drop them, one by one, into my children's wide pink mouths. Thank you.
confess that is just a stunning poem, so interesting and unusual. It really, really caught us when we read it. I'm actually going to read the next poem, In Memoriam for Jane Marek. Jane is an author of 8 poetry collections, most recently Torrential and Dusk Voice. When we read, and Jane's been published in BLR several times, when we read Jane's submissions, we were in love with the poems, but learned that Jane sadly passed away just a week or two after submitting the poems to BLR. And so we feel a very close connection that these are some of the last works that she was thinking about in those weeks. And the poem I'll read is called Animals Decide When to Die by Jane Marek. Old cat, my little love, as you withdraw along with the declining days in October and fold yourself into slanting light, you seem quiet and neat as rolled up socks. I wish you had no pain, but your stillness protects its secrets. I can only guess what your slitted eyes examine. At the window, leaves perch like orange birds with wings folded. I must slip across your vision as a blur, an erasure of a patch of sun on the floor. I can't tell you that I understand being close to the door that only opens once. Language fails as it always has, yours to me, mine to you. Only a body can convey how shadows rise inside, a tide of aches, overfilling aches until the shoreline lets go. Thank you, Jane, and thank you, Jane's husband, for joining us tonight and for sharing this beautiful poem.
Next, we're going to move on to our next set of readers. We have Nathan Gower, who is a writer and professor living in North Carolina. His current pet is a Russian blue cat named Sherlock, and he will be reading from his short story, The Rabbit Nest.
Thank you so much. So great to be here. I got a little emotional at that last poem, so I'll try to do my best here. So this short story, I'm going to read from kind of the middle of it, maybe about a page. You don't need to know much about it other than it's about a 9-year-old boy named Isaac and his older sister, Sarah, who's 12, and they're doing their best to survive. It was just a few days after he made that promise to me when I found the rabbit's nest, down by the tree line at the edge of the woods. I waited for Sarah to appear, and then pulled back the mesh of leaves and dead grass to reveal the hole in the ground, as big as Dad's closed fist. Sarah and I angled against each other to see down inside. I pointed as I counted aloud, numbering off 7 baby bunnies, their pink bodies smushed together like tiny lumps of clay. I wanted to touch their naked skin, but I knew Sarah wouldn't like that. Stay back, she yelled, even though I had my hands tucked into my lap. We don't want the mama rabbit to smell the human on them. I looked up, noticed a chicken hawk circling against the blinding sun. Sarah said we should cover the nest. Sarah said we should cover the nest or the hawk would get the bunnies. I closed my eyes until Sarah went away, and then I reached in, placed my open palm against their warm, lumpy bodies. That night, Mama slipped like a shadow into my dark room and tucked me into bed. She brushed the hair from my forehead, and I told her about the nest. I asked her if rabbits hated human smell, if she thought the mama rabbit would come back to take care of her babies. Mama didn't answer right away. We sat together for a long time before she finally did. I guess she might, said Mama, her voice brittle, unsure. The light from the hallway cut across her face, splitting her into shadow and light. I thought about the squish of rabbit flesh beneath my touch. But maybe she won't come back if she smells the human on them, I said. I wanted to add that Sarah was the one who told me that, but after the accident, Mama didn't like me talking about Sarah. She'll protect those babies the best she can, Isaac, Mama said. That's what all mamas do. In the shock of morning light, I got out of bed and went back down the hill to the edge of the woods. Sarah was already there, checking on the rabbits. The leaves were scattered around the hole. I looked inside and saw the mangled stumps of two half-eaten bunnies. All the other babies were gone. Sarah looked like she might be sick. Oh, God, no, she said. A curse, a prayer. That hawk must have got them, I said, blinking through wet eyes. No, said Sarah, turning away from the hole. No, I think their mama smelled the human on them. I think she ate them. She tilted her head back, full of tears. Thunder gathered above us, and the rain came in sheets. I looked at the mangled bunnies. Then I trudged up the hill, leaving Sarah behind me in the pouring rain. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. I remember reading your story when it was first submitted, and it's really unforgettable. It's just so powerful. Our next reader is Brett Warren, who is the author of a full-length poetry collection, The Map of Unseen Things. His current favorite animals are his two cats. He loves living with animals who are interactive and affectionate, yet retain so much of their wild nature. And he'll be reading his poem, Rabbit Walk. We have a little bit of a rabbit theme at this moment in the evening.
Hi, I'm actually a she. It's okay. A lot of people make that mistake. I just want to thank Danielle, Doris, and Stacy for bringing us all together tonight and in this issue. It is a great honor. Rabbit Walk. All around me, trees and shrubs infringe on gravestones, while lichens write their stories over names and dates. Under the ground, where once I imagined only the remains of the dead, twisting tunnels are being dug next to concrete vaults. Burrows are being made and remade. All these passages here all along. All this life going on while I've wasted my time being angry and afraid. My brokenness, a different kind of death. This morning, walking the cemetery, I am broken alive. I've come here to look for rabbits, denizens of the edges and in-betweens like me. I greet each one I see. May you live as long as you wish. The young like buttons, newly undone. The grown, their faces thinning and wise. This one flattening down into the grass. That one sitting still, silent, as upright as an urn. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Brett. That was amazing. Our next reader is Kate Stoltzfus, who is a poet and currently an MFA candidate and instructor at the University of Arkansas's MFA program in creative writing and translation. Her rescue dog Olson was named for the famous twins Mary Kate and Ashley. She'll be reading her poem, Part Cow.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to echo what everyone else has said. It is such a joy to be in this incredible lineup. Thank you so much for coordinating this reading. Part Cow. The harvesters eat before the skies bleach white, wait at fluorescent diners near the slaughterhouses for their call, abandon omelets to join assembly lines, split tracheas while the animals are still warm. Hulls quake alert when the tubes push down salt water, lungs expanding like lost jellyfish in surf to extract what's precious. Foam floats light as draft beer poured too quick. Hours matter. Slick suits, slow tails, flies unchecked over plum dark floor. The harvesters count as they pass the field's steaming movement, the masses waiting for tomorrow. 1 cow, 2 lungs, 30 seconds, 3 kids. Fluid the animals made with ease, easing a new pair's stretch. They transport liquid fresh to labs, purify and sterilize, evaporate for days. So much death to prevent death. And then medicine, syringe, catheter. A baby bellows a breath and another. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kate. That was really wonderful. Our next reader, our last reader of the evening is Daniel Reiss. He is a writer and teacher based in Spokane, Washington, and the proud owner of two cats named Gnocchi and Ignatius. And he'll be reading from his short story, Finding Honey.
Awesome, cool. Thank you guys for all sticking around. I had Ignatius in here, but he dipped out. I think it's too close to dinner time. So, yeah, cool. To find honey, I must first find a bee. It's not that hard to find a bee. I just wander the woods till I find a source of water. If I come to a creek or a river, I'll nearly always find bees. Like little sponges, honeybees soak themselves in water and carry it home for their larvae to drink. The only job of some worker bees is to carry water all day long. Once I find a bee, all I have to do is follow it back to the nest. That's where I find my honey. Some honey seekers, like my Uncle Hebbins, use bait to lure bees. They'll crush up dry tansy leaves and sprinkle the residue in a pan of sugar water, then set the pan outside in the yard. On warm, breezy days, bees whiff the tansy and zoom in from the hills and meadows. But I don't believe in baiting bees. It removes the sport from the hunt, embitters the sweetness of the prize. Today, the first bee I follow is plump, lazy, loping in high circles above the creek. It soars 10 feet above my squinting eyes till I'm knocked blind by the afternoon sun. When I spot the bee again, it's heading toward the opposite bank. I wade across the shin-deep creek, stepping over two salamanders, each black with yellow spots, sunbathing on a mossy rock. My guide buzzes like a chainsaw and flies at a relaxed pace, easy to track. I chase the bee uphill into the woods, a small wooden pail banging against my hip. My leather shoes track smoothly over the rocks and roots. I cobbled the brogans and cut the shoestrings myself, just like every other pair of shoes I've owned. The bee twists a path up the steep southern face of Revelation Ridge. Summertime in East Tennessee often feels like drowning in a bowl of soup. Sweat burns the corner of my eyes. The fire in my lungs invigorates me. After 2 years in jail, I'm lucky to be free again, wandering these hills, finally home at last. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That was just stunning. The story is beautiful, and if you haven't read it, you must. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. Of course, my co-editors, many of whom are here beside Doris and Stacy. Alana Weissman, a shout out to our nonfiction editor who wrote the foreword and pioneered the idea and really pushed the idea of Animalia. If you don't have your copy, all right, you should really get one. We have lots of copies available. You can order them digital as well as print. I also hope you'll become a subscriber. You know, as the world gets ever crazier, where I think we're all much more in need of having a community, and having a community of arts and artists and writers who are dedicated to thinking about our well-being, I think is unique. And I'm so glad you're all part of it. Please join us. blreview.org is our website, and you can become a subscriber. You can see other readings online. At BL Review is our handle on all social media. And you might even want to make a donation and support the arts. And next year, as I mentioned, is our 25th anniversary. So make sure you're around. We're so excited to have you. And thanks for supporting each other and everyone here. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you at the next event. Good night.